morning and welcome to the deep dive. We have a lot to cover today, so let's jump right in.
Sounds good.
And we really hope you'll comment below with your thoughts and questions as we go.
Definitely.
Today we're taking a look at the world of trading card games, specifically as it stood on April 11th.
Right.
We'll be diving into Pokemon, Disney, Lorcana, Magic, The Gathering, and we'll touch on One Piece too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
April 11th, an interesting snapshot across the TCG landscape. So where should we start? Pokemon.
Let's do it. Kicking off with Pokemon. What was the general feel of the market then?
Well, looking at the charts, the overall vibe seemed to be, one of stability.
Stability, okay.
Yeah, we weren't really seeing those dramatic dips that might suggest widespread panic selling. It kind of makes you wonder if the Pokemon collecting community is becoming a bit more resilient to short-term market noise.
It does make you think. I mean, even with that apparent stability, I was still getting a lot of DMs, people asking about singles, slabs. Yeah, but honestly, wading into that, it still feels a bit too unpredictable for me, personally.
I get that.
The big picture might look calm, but the individual card prices can still be, well, all over the place.
That's a great point. While the broader market indicators might point towards stability, the actual experience for someone, actively trading or collecting specific cards, it can be quite different.
Exactly.
It just highlights the nuance within the TCG market, right?
Yeah.
Macro trends don't always reflect that micro-level volatility.
And speaking of volatility, we definitely saw some strong reactions around the 151 set.
Oh, 151, yeah.
I heard a story. Someone had items from that set just vanish from their online shopping cart. Caused quite a commotion, apparently.
Wow, really? Yeah, that set clearly struck a chord with people.
It really did. It taps into that original Pokemon magic, doesn't it?
Precisely. The 151 set's popularity, it just underscores the enduring power of nostalgia in the Pokemon world.
Totally.
That emotional connection to the original characters drives significant demand. And when people feel like they might miss out, well, the reactions can get intense.
Yeah, no kidding. Now, here's something interesting we were seeing. Older Pokemon products, collection boxes and stuff, they seem to be getting more desirable as newer releases became harder to find.
That makes sense.
We're talking sets like Self Journey Together, Surging Sparks, Journey Together, Obsidian Flames.
Right, those kinds of sets.
For instance, individual Journey Together packs, they were going for around, $7 to $8 online?
Yeah, sounds about right.
And prismatic evolutions were even higher, like $13, $14. That's a significant premium for just one pack.
That really points to classic collector behavior, doesn't it?
Yeah.
When current supply is limited, attention often shifts to those established, maybe out-of-print items.
Exactly. Scarcity in the present just fuels demand for finite resources from the past.
And you get these kind of price surges in older products. Those prices for Journey Together and prismatic evolutions, they suggest a strong underlying desire and probably a dwindling supply on the secondary market.
There's also this persistent idea, maybe it's just me, but
Yeah.
Pokemon from the original 151 might just hold their value best, or even pop off big time down the line.
Oh, definitely. It really does keep coming back to that core nostalgia factor, doesn't it?
It does.
For a huge chunk of collectors, the original 151 Pokemon, they represent the very foundation of the franchise.
Right.
That deep-seated appeal, plus the fact that early printings are finite. It creates a pretty compelling argument for their potential long-term value. It's the bedrock for a lot of collections.
Okay, here's a fascinating tidbit. Apparently, the Gapejaw Bog card from Silver Tempest.
Gapejaw Bog, yeah.
It might end up being one of the rarest finds in the whole hobby.
Get out. Really?
Yeah. Initially, it was largely ignored, but now, as people realize just how scarce it actually is, it's becoming really sought after.
Wow. It's amazing how a card that was initially overlooked can suddenly become so desirable. What do you think drives those kinds of shifts, in perception?
Good question.
That Gapejaw Bog story perfectly illustrates how perceived value in the TCG world can just evolve.
Yeah.
Maybe initial disinterest comes from it not being great in play, or maybe the art wasn't splashy.
Could be.
But then the eventual realization of its true rarity that can dramatically increase its desirability among those hardcore collectors. The set completers, the ones looking for unique stuff.
Right, the trophy hunters.
Exactly. It underscores how important it is to understand print runs and pull rates, which honestly often takes time for the community to fully figure out.
And it seems like once a sealed Pokemon product goes out of print, we generally don't see massive price drops, maybe a slight dip, like 5 to 10% max.
Yeah, that relative price stability for out-of-print sealed Pokemon, It indicates a strong baseline of demand.
And a degree of confidence among collectors in the long-term collectability.
That has to be encouraging for people holding sealed collections, for sure. It suggests there's a consistent appetite for sealed vintage Pokemon, which prevents, significant devaluation even after production stops.
Now, shifting slightly, we also had some discussions around the potential impact of tariffs on Pokemon prices.
Oh, tariffs.
The general feeling seemed to be, while we might see some price increases, at least in the short term,
Yeah, that's plausible.
making it harder to avoid those markups. It almost feels like these changes are making it tougher for collectors to get good deals,
Tariffs can definitely introduce extra costs into the supply chain, and it's natural for those costs to potentially get passed on to consumers.
Right.
So that feeling of, like, being screwed or finding it harder to avoid markups, it's understandable in that scenario.
Yeah.
The ultimate impact on prices, though, it'll depend on various factors, the specific rates, how different parts of the supply chain absorb or pass on costs.
But here's a really interesting angle on the market. It appears the Pokemon market might not be directly tied to the ups and downs of, say, the traditional stock market.
Well, that's always a fascinating discussion.
Yeah, some sealed products seem to just maintain their value or even appreciate, even if the broader economy is facing headwinds.
It is intriguing, isn't it? This lack of direct correlation with traditional financial markets is a really interesting aspect of collectible assets.
Why do you think that is?
Well, factors like passion, nostalgia, just the finite nature of collectibles, they can often play a more significant role in driving demand and value than broader economic indicators.
Right, the emotional investment.
Exactly, which can indeed make certain TCG items a potential, alternative asset class for some people, especially during times of economic uncertainty.
We also saw some pretty significant pre-order price adjustments for the Destined Rival set.
Oh yeah, those were wild.
Elite Trainer boxes, for example. They dropped from around $270 down to $159.
Big drop.
And booster boxes, initially selling for over $400, then settling more in the $213 to $275 range. That's a substantial correction.
Those dramatic pre-order price swings really highlight the speculative bubble that can sometimes form around highly anticipated releases.
Totally. FOMO pricing.
Right. Initial hype, maybe inflated expectations.
Wow.
That leads to those crazy high pre-order prices. Then they often get recalibrated as the actual release date gets closer and we get more concrete info.
So that huge drop suggests a major adjustment in market expectations for Destined Rivals.
Absolutely.
And in the current market climate, the consensus seemed to be that picking up Destined Rivals at MSRP, that was considered a must-grab.
Yeah, which really puts those initial pre-order prices into perspective, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. That kind of sentiment just underscores the importance of maybe exercising some caution, waiting for the initial frenzy to die down before buying.
For sure. Securing a hot product like Destined Rivals at its intended retail price, instead of paying those inflated pre-order costs, that's definitely a win for collectors and players.
Okay, lastly for Pokemon. Lots of buzz building around the upcoming Glory of Team Rocket set.
Team Rocket, always exciting.
New card reveals were generating a lot of excitement. We know we can expect around, 8 EX cards in the main set?
Yep, including some fan favorites. Team Rocket's Mewtwo, Crobat, Persian, Moltres.
The return of that iconic villainous team is sure to resonate with longtime fans.
Definitely a smart move, tapping right into that rich vein of nostalgia.
We're also hearing that illustration rare cards will be pretty prominent, like 12 expected in both Hot Air Arena and Glory of Team Rocket.
Yeah, which suggests a visually stunning set. New card reveals will just keep fueling speculation and anticipation, and that emphasis on illustration rares points towards a set that'll be highly sought after for its art, not just gameplay.
Okay, let's switch gears now. Let's dive into the world of Disney Lorcana.
All right, Orcana.
Sounds like there was already a banned card causing a stir. Flavor Sham.
Yes, Flavor Sham.
Apparently, the flavor text itself kind of hinted at some format imbalances, which ultimately led to its banning alongside Blue Steel.
Yeah, it's pretty unusual for a card's flavor text to basically foreshadow its own demise.
Right.
It is indeed. The early banning of cards in a relatively new game like Lorcana, it's a sign the developers are actively working to ensure, a healthy and balanced competitive scene.
Good for them.
And the fact that the flavor text of Flavor Sham seemed to allude to its problematic nature, that adds this layer of meta commentary that's quite unique.
Like they knew.
It suggests the potential for imbalance was perhaps even recognized during the card's creation. Interesting stuff.
All right, moving on to Magic: The Gathering. Lots happening there.
Always is.
There was some discussion around the Tarkir Dragonstorm set, specifically ranking its potential commanders for that format.
Okay, Dragonstorm Commandos. Let's hear it.
Coming in at number 15 was Anafenza, Unyielding Lineage.
Anafenza.
She's a 3-mana white 22 creature. Flash and first strike.
Decent stats. Flash is nice.
And when a non-token creature you control dies, you get to endure 2.
Endure 2. All right, that's the mechanic where you look at the top 2 of your graveyard, put 1 in hand.
Exactly. So she offers a bit of immediate presence with flash and first strike, plus some graveyard recursion.
Yeah, Anafenza presents an interesting combo. Early game aggression, that valuable card advantage through Endure 2. Maybe not the flashiest Dragonstorm commander, but her versatility could lead to some interesting, resilient strategies.
Ranked at number 14 was Surak, Elusive Hunter.
Surak.
His ability lets you exile a random card from your graveyard and then play it for the turn.
Random, huh?
Yeah, the general feeling seemed to be that he's a bit clunky as a commander, especially when you compare him to other, maybe more consistent red recursion options.
That randomness factor can be a bit of a drawback when you're trying to build a cohesive strategy.
Yeah.
I could see that.
Well, Surak's ability could, lead to some explosive turns.
Sure. High row potential.
Yeah. The inherent randomness of just exiling something and hoping it's useful can make him less reliable than others that offer more targeted recursion or value.
Yeah, fair assessment.
At number 13, we have Sarkhan, Dragonscendant. He's a 2-mana 2/2, allows you to behold a dragon.
Behold is the new keyword.
Yep. And when you behold a dragon with Sarkhan, you create a treasure token.
Ah, okay. So 2 mana, 2/2 body, and potential ramp.
Exactly. For just 2 mana, you get a decent early body and a way to ramp into your bigger threats.
Sarkhan's low cost combined with generating treasures via Behold. That makes him potentially very efficient as a Dragonstorm commander. Early ramp is crucial for hitting those big dragon spells faster. Good example of setting up early.
And rounding out this part of the ranking, at number 12, Codis, the Blade Reforged.
Codis. Black, green, blue.
That's the one. 4 mana, 21, but indestructible.
Indestructible is always nice.
What makes him really interesting is whenever he deals combat damage to a player, you exile the top X cards of their library, X being the damage dealt.
Okay.
Then you can cast spells from among those exiled cards with mana value X or less without paying their mana costs.
Whoa. That sounds like it could lead to some incredibly wild, unpredictable plays.
Right.
Absolutely. Codis offers a truly unique and potentially game-changing ability.
Yep.
Indestructible makes him sticky,
Hard to remove.
and the ability to essentially steal and cast your opponent's spells for free, that creates a commander with a really high ceiling for explosive turns.
The mana value restriction adds a strategic layer too, I guess.
Definitely. You have to consider the mana costs in your opponent's deck when deciding how to use those exiled cards. Very cool design.
We also got a glimpse into a pretty intricate Magic game scenario, like super complex.
Oh yeah, high-level play.
Looked like it. Involved a huge number of cards being played, interacting, powerhouses like Lion's Eye Diamond,
LED, yeah.
Echo of Eons, Burning Wish, Lotus Petal, Chrome Mox, Daya's Will, Bayou. Just tons of stuff.
Okay, sounds like legacy or vintage. Fast mana, big plays.
It really illustrated just how deep and combo-oriented high-level Magic can be. For example, saw a player using Burning Wish multiple times.
Getting sideboard cards.
Yeah, to retrieve Beseech the Mirror from their sideboard, eventually leading to a game-winning Tendrils of Agony.
Classic storm finish.
They even imprinted different cards onto Chrome Mox at different stages, like Gaia's Will, then Song of Creation.
Adapting on the fly. Smart.
And used Gamble to try and find Echo of Eons after pitching the Lion's Eye Diamond.
Risky, but necessary sometimes. That sequence gives a fantastic snapshot of competitive Magic, doesn't it?
It really
It
does.
shows the incredible power and speed from fast mana like LED, Petal, Mox. Allows players to generate mana so quickly.
And the strategic use of wish effects like Burning Wish, accessing specific sideboard cards mid-game, that's a hallmark of those formats.
Totally. And imprinting different spells onto Chrome Mox highlights the flexibility and value of those zero-mana artifacts. The whole thing just demonstrates the intricate planning and precise execution needed at that level.
Interestingly, though, it sounded like even though this particular player won the game, they weren't really enjoying the play patterns of that specific format.
Really? Even after winning like that?
Yeah, they felt it was too focused on forced checks, where opponents constantly need specific answers right now, or they just lose.
Yeah, that can feel oppressive.
And they weren't a fan of the prevalence of, oops, All spell-style decks being top tier.
Ah, okay. That brings up an interesting point about the balance between playing to win and actually, enjoying the game experience.
Exactly.
It does. That sentiment reflects a common debate in competitive Magic and other strategy games, too.
Yeah.
That tension between optimizing for victory and maintaining an enjoyable gameplay experience for everyone.
Right.
When formats get too reliant on specific powerful combos or strategies that demand immediate answers, it can sometimes lead to less interactive, less satisfying games for some players, even if those strategies are technically effective.
There was also a mention of Inferno Titan
Hmm.
from that cycle of Titans.
Oh, the Titans. Primeval Sun,
Yeah,
Inferno.
Inferno Titan.
Yeah.
6 mana, 6/6 red mana ability for +1/+0. But the really notable thing was its trigger. Deals damage when it enters or when it attacks.
Huge value.
Apparently, these Titans were among the first creatures in Magic to have such impactful enters the battlefield triggers,
Yeah.
which feels so fundamental now.
You're absolutely right. The Titan cycle, including the iconic Inferno Titan, was a significant turning point in Magic's creature design.
Really changed things.
Massively. Before them, most creatures had static abilities, or maybe triggered abilities that were less immediate. The Titan's ETB and attack triggers provided enormous immediate value. Opponents had to react instantly. It fundamentally changed how creatures were evaluated and played.
Set a precedent.
Absolutely. They set a precedent for impactful creature abilities that continues to influence card design today.
Another card that came up was Shatterskull Smashing.
Ah, the modal lands. Good one.
Really interesting dual-purpose card, right? Play it as a tapped land or cast it as a spell to deal damage to creatures, planeswalkers.
Super flexible.
It saw a lot of play in Standard, particularly in decks built around Jessica Hinata, where its spell cost could be reduced, making it even more efficient.
Yeah, those modal double-face cards are incredibly valuable. Shatterskull Smashing is a prime example.
Having either a land drop when you need mana or a removal spell when you need interaction, that provides immense consistency.
Totally. Its effectiveness in decks like Hinata, where costs can be manipulated, just amplifies its power. These kinds of cards help mitigate mana screw and flood. Makes for smoother games.
We also heard quick mentions of a whole slew of other Magic cards, kind of painting a picture of various game states and strategies.
It's just a laundry list.
Yeah, like Orcish Bowmasters,
Mm.
Teferi and its impact, Adeline, Cathar, Preordain being cast multiple times.
Okay, seeing preordained multiple times suggests maybe some kind of loop or recursion effect.
Could be. Woodland Cemetery. Beseech the Mirror being used repeatedly. Sink into Stupor being played as a land.
Another modal card as a land.
Bosiju, who endures also as a land, the ubiquitous Thoughtseize.
Of course.
Powerful counterspells like Force of Negation, Force of Will, the protection spell Veil of Summer.
Key interaction pieces.
The unavailable Gaia's Will. Burning Wish fetching sideboard cards again. Chrome Mox imprinting stuff. Drawing Lotus Petal. Using Gamble to find Echo of Eons. Discarding Lion's Eye Diamond. Echo of Eons itself.
Wow, yeah. That rapid sequence of card mentions really does give a sense of a fast-paced, intricate game, likely Legacy or Vintage again.
Seems like it.
The repeated use of Preordain and Beseech highlights card selection, finding specific answers. The potent counter magic like Force and Veil shows how crucial protecting your spells is.
And using those dual-purpose lands like Shatterskull, Sink into Stupor, Bosiju shows efficient resource management, adapting.
Exactly.
Then we heard about a key decision point. Using Thoughtseize, revealing counter magic in the opponent's hand,
The moment of truth.
leading to the choice of taking Force of Negation. Apparently, the player couldn't cast Beseech the Mirror off the top right then.
Okay, so timing was critical.
Mox Opal was mentioned as being in the sideboard, and the player had 3 blue mana available and an Echo of Eons with a storm count of 2.
Setting up for something big with Echo.
They then played a commercial district and kept a Lotus Petal on top of their library.
Interesting library manipulation.
Meanwhile, their opponent untapped a Grim Monolith and drew the One Ring.
Oh boy. The One Ring, that sounds like a pivotal, tension-filled turn.
Totally.
It absolutely does. That sequence showcases the high-stakes decision-making in competitive Magic. Information from Thoughtseize, the choice of what to take, critical.
Yeah.
Not being able to cast Beseech immediately, Opal in the side, hints at deeper planning. And the opponent, drawing the One Ring, introduces a powerful, potentially game-changing threat. Sets the stage for a dramatic continuation. Perfect example of dynamic, unpredictable magic.
We also got a glimpse at some interesting new and noteworthy magic cards. Mox Jasper, mentioned as a brand new Mox.
A new Mox. Where'd
Well,
they
a
get it?
serialized version, limited to an incredibly small print run, only 500 worldwide.
500. That's insane rarity. That's absolutely going to be a highly sought-after collector's item.
That's
A serialized Mox card with that level of scarcity, the prestige of the Mox name plus that rarity, huge interest from players and high-end collectors, no doubt.
the Planeswalker Ujin was described as insanely strong.
Ugin, the spirit dragon. Yeah, he's powerful.
And the Grade of Behemoth reprint of Ujin was specifically highlighted. We also heard prices for Ghostfire Ujin and Death Begets Life on Card Market. Foil versions around €89 and $25 respectively.
Those prices give you a sense of their desirability and impact. Ugin's power level is undeniable. Reprints always get attention, and those foil prices reflect strong demand in the European market.
Interestingly, Dragonite Basics, basic lands with unique art, were noted as being quite rare, only obtainable from collector booster packs.
Ah, the fancy basics.
Yeah.
Yeah, exclusive lands from premium products like collector boosters often become desirable. Limited availability, unique aesthetic, appeals to collectors and players wanting deck flair.
Good to know for the bling factor.
Definitely.
The sorcery spell Dragonfire was discussed, destroys creatures and enchantments.
Okay, versatile removal.
And then, for each permanent destroyed this way, you draw a card.
Whoa, that sounds like a potentially devastating board wipe that also gives significant card advantage.
Yeah.
A true 2-for-1 or more.
Right.
Exactly. Dragonfire's ability to clear the board of multiple threat types and replenish your hand. Very versatile, potentially game-winning in the right spot. The scaling card draw is a huge incentive.
We also heard mentions of various other individual cards and their approximate prices, kind of a broader market view.
Just a quick scan.
Yeah. Full art clan cards like Mammoth around $21, Hollow Siege maybe $49, Protector of the Wastes at $3, Ever Avenger of the Fallen. Tip the scales, $2.50-ish, Shiko $14, Shiko Paragon of the Way.
Okay, a mix of prices there.
Fankeeper's Familiar, Smile at Death, Audora, Extravagant Replication, Declaration of War, Emergency Zone, Sapphire Medallion. It's a wide range, different values depending on rarity, playability, collector demand.
That list really showcases the diversity within Magic. The varying prices just reflect that complex interplay of factors: rarity, format play, collector interest.
And finally for Magic, also heard about Esper Sentinel, Adeline Cathar again, Pegum, Preordain again,
Preordain getting a workout.
Woodland Cemetery. Someone named Jeremy controlling an indestructible 2-power creature and a 3/3,
War State Snapshot.
making 3/11 creatures, Bloodcar Butcher with Death Touch and Mobilize 2, and the intriguing card Puffer Extract.
Tougher Extract sounds interesting.
Yeah, it really paints a picture of active, engaging gameplay across different formats.
These final mentions just further highlight the dynamic, tactical nature of Magic. Creature interplay, strategic removal, tokens, all contributing to the rich gameplay experiences the game offers. And Preordain being cast multiple times due to an effect really emphasizes the potential for powerful card manipulation.
Now, unfortunately, our sources for April 11th didn't give us any specific details or updates on the One Piece trading card game.
Okay. Nothing on One Piece.
Not this time. But, it remains an important part of the overall TCG landscape. We'll definitely keep an eye out for news there for future deep dives.
Indeed. While we didn't have specific info today, the One Piece TCG continues to be a significant player. Lots of enthusiasm in that community. We'll certainly aim to include more details in the future when we have them.
Well, that was a truly comprehensive deep dive. Wow. Wide range of TCG news and insights from April 11th. Thanks for staying with us through all of that.
It was certainly a packed session today. Covered a lot of ground in Pokemon, Lorcana, and especially Magic.
For sure. And don't forget to check out 151Collectables.com for all your TCG needs.
Absolutely. We hope you found it informative and insightful. And yes, definitely visit 151Collectables.com. One final thought to leave everyone with. Considering all the factors we talked about today, influencing card value, nostalgia, rarity, gameplay, market speculation, which single factor do you think ultimately holds the most sway in the long run? Something to ponder for your own collecting journeys.